Chuck O'Brien here with Chuck Roberts, military historian, commander of American Legion Post 403, and curator of Roberts Armory World War II Museum in Rochelle, giving us some background on the Battle of Midway.
Okay, the Battle of Midway was perhaps the most pivotal sea battle in the Pacific theater in World War II. In the 1930s, Japan embarked on an imperialistic strategy conquering various countries and territories. As a result of this, the U.S. cut off oil shipments to Japan. Since Japan at the time obtained most of its oil imports from the U.S., the Japanese Army decided to seek other sources. For instance, the Dutch East Indies oil fields. In order to pursue this strategy, the U.S. must be taken out, and the attack on Pearl Harbor was the result. The Japanese military continued to win battles and conquer territories and viewed the Americans as ineffective. This attitude toward the Americans came to an end with the Doolittle raid on Tokyo, first ever bombing of Japan, and the Battle of the Coral Sea, which stopped Japanese advancement toward Australia. The Tokyo raid was a huge embarrassment to the Japanese military, who had proclaimed that Japan would never be attacked. Consequently, a plan was developed to extend Japanese area of influence toward the east to afford more protection against future attacks. The target, Midway Island, and the remaining American aircraft carriers, which were at the root of the opposition to the Japanese Navy. Aircraft carriers had suddenly become the premier naval weapon of World War II.
What was the role of the American codebreakers?
Codebreakers at Pearl Harbor had successfully broke the Japanese Navy JN-25 code and noticed increased traffic, indicating a big operation against Target AF. American planners suspected that the huge operation was an attack on Midway, but weren't sure. So a fake message was sent in the open from Midway that the freshwater condensers had broken down. It did not take long before a Japanese message was intercepted that the water condensers at Target AF had broken down. Admiral Nimitz, commander of Naval Forces Pacific, designed a plan to intercept the Japanese Navy by placing the American aircraft carriers Enterprise and Hornet just north and east of Midway. The Yorktown, which was badly damaged during the Battle of the Coral Sea, was thought to be out of action, but was repaired in 3 days, which had been thought to be impossible. The Yorktown set out to join the other two carriers.
Why was Admiral Halsey not in command?
Admiral Halsey was to command the task force, but came down with a severe case of shingles and had to be hospitalized. He recommended Admiral Ray Spruance as his replacement. Spruance was a skilled cruiser division commander, but had never commanded an aircraft carrier task force. He was chosen over several more senior admirals and told about his assignment 2 days before departure. Spruance took command of Task Force 16, Enterprise and Hornet, and Admiral Fletcher, in overall command, used the Yorktown as his flagship.
Okay, let's get to the attack now.
On June 4th, 1942, the Japanese attacked Midway. The day before, they attacked the Aleutian Islands in Alaska. The Aleutian Island attack was considered by the Americans to be a diversion. Aircraft from Midway were scrambled and attacked the Japanese fleet, but did not take out any aircraft carriers. After a sighting of Japanese carriers, Fletcher launched torpedo bombers and dive bombers, and Spruance did the same. Initial attacks by American aircraft on the Japanese carriers were ineffective, but did reduce the Japanese combat patrol to lower levels. Admiral Nagumo, commander of the Japanese force, having learned of the approach of the American carriers, ordered remaining of his aircraft, and most of it that was returning, to be rearmed, which were originally equipped with ground attack bombs, and they were replaced with anti-ship weapons. Nagumo's aircraft could not take off during this period, leaving his carrier fleet virtually unprotected. Then several American dive bombers showed up and commenced their dives on the three Japanese carriers, Akagi, Kaga, and Soryu, without any significant opposition, setting them all on fire, which resulted in all sinking. The aircraft carrier Yorktown was hit by 2 Japanese aircraft strikes and was abandoned and eventually sunk. Admiral Spruance gathered up what dive bombers were left and sent out an attack force, resulting in sinking of the last Japanese carrier, Hiryu. With 4 Japanese carriers sunk and 1 American carrier sunk, the tide of the war shifted in favor of Americans, and the Japanese were never able to reestablish naval superiority.
And that, in a nutshell, Midway, and especially on the heels of the new movie that's out, and which was terrific. Any thoughts?
It was a very good movie. I found it to be historically accurate.
Great. My son as well. my young son, who I think is inspired to maybe be a military historian someday. Good to see you, Chuck. Thank you very much.
Thank you.